series so far, and we have a new book series, so I'm really excited to be going into these next sets of books. We are going to be doing the Hunger Games series, so I'll be doing the 3 videos for one for each of the books. So I'm really excited about this one, as you can tell. So Hunger Games by Susan Collins. So I actually just read this one recently. It was about couple months ago, but it's for those of you who've seen the movies are actually very relevant to the source. I mean, you can really get anything better. I believe, I don't know if she was behind the scenes when they were making movies, but if you read the books, you'll know that they match up very good. So, in these ones, it's basically a apocalyptic world. So it's in the future, and in the Hunger Games, there's every year, it's the Reaping Day, and so it's when all kids 12 to 18 dress in their finest clothes and get their hair done and absolutely perfect, and they put their name in. They have their name put in every year, so it's once each year, unless you want to get a, an additional thing, and that's basically, I forgot the term, but it's when you can put your name in more times, and you get oil and bread, basically, for each one of your family members. So some people do that, so your name could be in 12 times. And so our main character is Katniss Everdeen, and Katniss is basically a very independent, very strong, wise person. So she is with her friend Gale, and Gale, they both hunt together, and he's actually about 2 years older than her, and they look very similar. They both have black hair and green eyes, I believe, and hunting isn't really prohibited. It's prohibited, that's what I mean. And so they go over the metal gate every day, and they have to make sure they don't hear a hum, and if they don't, they can go over it, because then they would get electrocuted. But, so, it's the day of the reaping, and they're getting food and everything, and they are just having their little meal. He went to go get a roll, and he had to trade in the squirrel for it and everything. And so they're just enjoying, and then they have to go back and get prepared. And Katniss's little sister, Primrose Everdeen, that's her full name, she's really scared and nervous because it's her first year, and she's trying to tell her, your name's only been there one goal, you're not going to get picked. But unfortunately, going ahead, she does get picked, but Katniss volunteers for her. And so Katniss ends up going to the games. And then Peeta Mellark goes in as well. And with each district, there's 12 districts, each one has a different occupancy in a way. So 12, it's the steel mills, so that's where a lot of the workers work. And actually Katniss's father died from an explosion down there, and so she had to basically prepare everything for her family. She was the breadwinner. And so when she goes there, all these people are basically learning how to fight, or trying to find plants that you can eat, everything. Like Katniss remembers watching the games from years past, and every year it's a different location, there's different things that can kill you and everything. But when they get picked, they go with Effie Trinket, and Effie is from the Capitol. And Capitol is the place where all the rich, wealthy people are. It's where they basically watch it's pretty messed up, because you watch these kids fight to the death, basically. And she turns out to be someone who's kind of more sympathetic in a way. You start to like her. And then Haymitch, he's someone who's drunk, who actually He's a sponsor, or mentor, my apologies. And mentors are people who won previous games. And so he won District 12 during the 50th Hunger Games, and that's when they had double amount of people in that game. So 1 out of 48 would win, and so he won. But he used smart. He played smart, and he didn't really. I mean, he killed some people, but it wasn't as much. And that's the thing with Hunger Games. You can either just go kill as many people as you want, or you can hide. But I mean, sooner or later, you're gonna either get killed by somebody, or you're gonna get killed by poisonous plant. It's just so much. So they get there and they're treated to just all this delicious food, and of course, since they're pretty much all starving, except for Peta, who actually is the son of a baker. So he always has food, but his mom has always been abusive to him. And Katniss actually knew who she was, because when she was 11 years old, it was after her father died, she was trying to go get food. And she's about to brink of starvation, she's about to die, and he passed out the bread, the loaves. And it was actually burnt loaves. He was giving some to the pig, but instead he gave a little bit to the pig, and then he gave the other loaves to her, and so she ran back. But Katniss learned how from Gale. Gale took her, and they both learned how to hunt. He showed her how to make certain traps. So the first couple of weeks, it's just preparing for it to happen, and then they have to do their basically interviews with Caesar, and Caesar tries to make each tribute look good and feel good, last questions, and he of course asked Katniss about Prim, and asked if that was your sister, and what did you tell her, and she said that she would try to look for her. So and then it comes to the day where the games are going to happen. So there's 24, 2 from each tribute, and there's these tributes called careers. And careers are basically, they've always been fed and they've been trained from the day they were born to go fight. And so that's tributes 1 and 2. So it's Marvel, Glimmer. That's, sorry about that. I was struggling with the name a little bit. They are from District 1, and District 2 is Cato and Clove. And so in the games, they all sort of stay together, and at the end, and they start to go kill off people during that. And then in the end, they would, I guess, split up and just try to kill each other. It doesn't seem like the most accurate plan, unless you are just someone who knows you're not going to survive and you need an ally. But the scenery is a huge forest, and this is good for Katniss, and that's her territory. I mean, she always goes in the forest. And so she grabs a backpack, and she almost gets killed by Clove, because there's this whole gathering tent area, and it has all the supplies you could need, all food and everything. But of course, everyone's going to go there, so it's a bloodbath if you go there. And so that's where 10 to 12 people get killed that fast. I mean, and so she's able to get a backpack, and she runs into the forest, and she tries to go look for water. That's what Haymitch was telling her to do. And she's basically just trying to run away from everything and hide. And she's doing so. She sleeps in the tree. She has a rope from the backpack, and she just ties herself to it. And she has all of her other supplies. She got like a canteen of water in a purification system, so because the water's not really safe to drink. So, or I think just because it's not safe. I mean you can drink it, but it's not going to be the best thing. So and then eventually what happens, people die in between. She runs into the 4, and then she sees Peta joining with them, and they're all looking for Katniss. And so Katniss thinks Peta's like the traitor in a way, because Peta was like really nice to her and everything, but she didn't really want to invite him in because she knows that she would have to, if she did survive, she would have to really kill him. So she thinks he just like betrayed her and everything. But they see her, and they're terrible shots when it comes to archery. And so they camp where her tree is, but then they see Katniss sees little girl Rue from District 11. Her and Thresh, they're in a way allies because he wouldn't kill her, Thresh wouldn't, but she's 12, so she reminds her a lot of Prim, like what Prim would have probably done. And so she's hiding in the tree, and she points out to a wasp's nest, and so she's basically telling her to cut it down. And so she does, and she kind of gets stung by 2 of the tracker jackers, and the venom, if you get stung by a bunch, you will die, and you get very puffed up and just become really hideous. But you can get these hallucinations, and that's what she starts to do, and so she passes out. But before that, she grabs Glimmer's bow and arrow, since that's the best thing she can do. And when Rue actually takes care of her and shows her what plants can help with this. Since Rue is from District 11, she's from the agriculture area, so they basically have to get all the grain and everything, but the sad thing is they can't eat it, and if they do, they get in trouble from the peacekeepers, which, interesting, that's their name considering what they do. But they become allies, and everything's going good for them, and the other tributes, the ones that are still alive, they go back to the area where they have everything and make a booby trap, basically. So if anybody tries to steal it, it gets exploded. They get exploded. Or they get destroyed, that's what I mean. So Katniss and Rue want to destroy it. And Katniss is able to do that, but she goes back, and she hears Rue screaming, and Rue, she gets killed. And that really destroys Katniss. But she later finds Peeta, he's all disguised in, he is camouflage. So basically he's disguised as a rock in trees. So she almost doesn't see him, but there's blood, he's by the lake, and so there's blood coming down, and she finds him. She takes care of him, and they send, there's these things called parachutes, and parachutes is when you get sponsors, and sponsors are people that really like you and want to help you in the games. And so that does help Katniss, especially since Haymitch is the one who has to be responsible for them to get sponsors so they can live. And Haymitch tells Katniss to basically, because at the interview, Peeta says that he basically is in love with Katniss, and he's been in love with her since he's known her. And that's in kindergarten, I believe, or so. And Haymitch tells Katniss to continue with that love. So that way more people will root for that. And so at first Katniss is just pretending, but later in the book she's realizing that she actually does love him. But that's later. So she's like kissing him and spending time with him. And then there is an announcement that 2 people can win. So they're both very excited. 2 people from the same tribute. And there's also an announcement that they have backpacks for each tribute. And so Katniss, of course, wants to go get it, but Peeta doesn't want her to do that. But she's able to, they send another thing. It's a thing basically to have someone go to sleep for just a certain time. So she gives it to Peeta, and then she goes for the backpack. And there she almost dies by Clove, but Thresh kills Clove when Clove says that she killed Rue. And Thresh when he talks with her, he realizes that Rue was her ally, and so he spares her life. And then what happens next is she is able to go give that to Peeta, and there's only Cato left and Thresh, but Thresh, he is killed and Thresh, he actually is killed by these beasts, and these huge beasts, and so, Thresh is actually killed by Cato later on. That was the one part in the movie that happens differently, but, so, they basically go to safety, and they see Cato running, and they think it's towards them, but it turns out he's running away from the things. And he goes on top of the tent area, and Katniss and Peeta are behind them. And so they all reach the top, but before that happens, Cato tries to kill Katniss and Peeta, and then he gets a hold of Peeta, and Katniss shoots him in the arm, and then he falls back into the creatures. But he actually doesn't die for a while, and so they hear his screams, and until Katniss can't take it anymore, she shoots him. But what happens is they think they've won and everything, but nobody's coming, and then they hear another announcement saying that the rule that said that you could win, now it's won again. So they are basically saying you have to kill one another. And so Katniss got some berries that she found that were poisonous, and so she was telling him to eat them. And so they were bringing it up to their mouths, and then the reporter told them to stop, and then they were welcomed back. But of course the main man, President Snow, is upset by this, and they're both declared the victor, and they're sent back home and everything. But the guy that was in charge of it actually has to kill himself, because the programmer, President Snow was disappointed in him. But that is the first video. So yeah, I hope you enjoy, and if you do get a chance, I would highly recommend reading these books. You can watch the movies too, but the books are always better, and that's just with everything, I mean. So thank you very much. Have a lovely day.